What's up, YouTube? Stobo here. And I know I already dropped a video today, but hey, when you're trying to get started, always need content. Ignore the cat in the background right there. So this is a whole new segment I'm bringing to y'all. I'm writing a book. The title's kind of messed up, but it's A Twist for the Twisted, a short story by me. I wanted to be an author for as long as I can remember, and I'm really good at writing short, messed up stories. So I think me and my friend have been talking about different things I can do on the channel besides just reviews. So I'm bringing in this segment. We're calling it Horror Time since it's October. And we're going to be reading a story out of here for the month of October, throughout the rest of the month of October. I can't guarantee every day, but I have this as well. When this dries out, it got wet, I will be reading a chapter out of this every day. Star Wars book I'm writing, and I'll go further into that once I'm able to. But that's for later. So, the story I've chosen today is called Identity Theft. So, without further ado, let's rip to TKO and get into it. Cheers. I woke from a coma that I had been in for 30 years. No one came to visit or even claim me. I woke from a coma that I had been in for 30 years. My name is Jane Doe. Leaving the hospital, I had no belongings or identification. I had no home to go to. I was homeless, with no idea where I was or who I am. I didn't know where to go or who to start or how to start my life. One of the nurses was nice enough to run me out a blanket and $5. She also told me where the homeless shelter was located. As I made my way to the shelter, I bumped into some man. I said I was sorry, and instead he turned around and beat me up. Yeah. See? You say you're sorry. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned. You just get beaten up. My body was black and blue. My face was bloodier than a fresh kill. I picked myself up off the ground. When doing so, I picked up a big rock. I turned the man around and smashed his head in with the rock. Teeth and skull fragments decorated a nearby trash can. He fell to his knees, still twitching from the shock. I dropped the rock and grabbed his skull. I digged my thumbs into his eyes until the blood and brain matter dripped from my hands. He started to scream, so I jammed my knee into his throat, breaking it. I threw his body to the cold, wet ground and started eating his rib cage. After I finished my meal, I wiped off the blood with the hospital robes and took the clothes from the victim. I hid the body in the newly decorated trash can and left the small alleyway we were in. Looking through the wallet, I found my new name and new address. When I arrived at my new home, I heard a crash. A glass bowl broke on the floor, and as the original Josh Weed's wife ran from the kitchen. As she tripped and fell, I grabbed a knife from the kitchen. I stood over her, grabbed her by her hair, and slit her throat, and the last thing she saw was her daughter as she bled out. Chasing the child upstairs, I tripped as she was throwing toys at me. As my whole body hit the stairs, I managed to grab the girl's leg. Still holding the knife, I slashed her Achilles tendon and she fell to the floor crying. Dragging her down the stairs by her hair, I was taking her to the kitchen. She would be easier to clean up there. I got her to the kitchen and sat her on the counter. I was putting the knife to her throat when I heard the sirens. I didn't realize the wife triggered the silent alarm before she died. I quickly looked at the girl and stabbed her several times out of anger. I threw her body to the floor as I ran out the back door. I was scared. Once the police found out I killed Josh Weed and took his identity, they would put me back in the hospital. I didn't want that. It was where my life was ruined. It was time to find a new identity and a new home. That is where my life will begin. I was on the run again, and I didn't know how I was going to get a new identity. What I do now is I want one without a kid. Walking to the streets now, I started looking, plus I was getting hungry, so I had to kill soon. I sat down on a park bench when I heard talk of people without homes like me under the bridge nearby, so that's where I set off to. I reached the bridge and was in for a shock. The people were so dirty I couldn't find a meal here. I may not know much, but I do know I like my food clean. I had to leave and find a clean meal soon. Lost in the image, I just saw a tall man knock me down. He offered to buy me a drink for the accident, so we got in his car. We arrived at the bar. He parked in the back of the parking lot. That was where I strangled him. As he sat dead in the driver's seat, I started changing into his clothes. Once I was dressed, I bit his throat and started eating. But I had made a mistake. Blood splattered everywhere. My new clothes were ruined. I knew I was going to get caught now. I got out of the car and tried to find a place to wash my clothes. The animals I saw on the tube in the hospital ate each other. I'm sorry, I ruined that up. Let me reread that. The animals I saw on that tube in the hospital ate each other, so we must do too, but something tells me this is wrong. Since I wasn't successful in my search, I went back to the car. There I was, stopped. The man that stopped me was off-duty cop meeting his friend, but got worried when he couldn't find him. Then when I approached his friend's car, he knew the worst had happened. My heroin face still drenched in his friend's blood, he put handcuffs on me and ordered I take him to the body. When he saw what I did to his friend, he fell to his knees. His face had his eyes eaten out, and his rib cage was eaten down to the spinal cord. The guts were laying all around him as if it were a garnish. The organs were missing, and I told him they tasted the best. Now labeled as a monster, I was put in the back of the man's car and was taken to a weird building. It was a big building with bars keeping people in rooms and people with shiny squares keeping them in there. I started to freak out, but I was shocked by one of the keepers and fell to the floor. When I woke up, I was chained to a table with a keeper sitting across from me. That is where I admitted I strangled the keeper's friends and ate him. I also admitted to the killing of the Weed family. After the questioning was over, I was thrown in a cage to wait to see what they called a judge. The judge put me on death row. I had to wait in a cage to wait to be killed by the keepers. While waiting in my cage, I had a lot of time to think. I still couldn't figure out how I got to the hospital and why nobody came looking for me. I was told my name was Nathan Gates, but by the time I got my head around the fact I had a real identity, I was jerked up and put in handcuffs again. I was being taken to my death. The keepers strapped me into a chair and a hat to my head. When I got my real name, I got my real identity. Truth is, I got my name, but it didn't matter. No, I'm nobody, and nobody cares for me. I have 30 years of proof. I woke up from a coma I had been in for 30 years. Nobody came to visit or claim me. I woke up from a coma I had been in for 30 years, and I'm a nobody. With a deep pit in my chest, I felt the charge surge through my whole body. Then suddenly it stopped, and I was dead. After I was buried on the jail grounds, one of the grave diggers got a visitor. It was an elderly man who walked with a cane. He asked to be directed to the newest grave. Once the man knelt down and left a note. He kissed the tombstone and left. The note read, "I'm sorry it took this long to find you. I missed you for so long and will forevermore. I love you, son. Goodbye." So, I wrote that fairly quick. I'm sorry. These are all pre-writes. I have many stories in here. Sorry for how I read it. I'm new to this. So just bear with me. I promise they will get better. But if you guys like that, let me know in the comments below. There will be more judging on the comments. And like I said, there will always be more content, more videos, and I'll always find stuff to put on here. Little insight, I do have pain therapy coming up, so I am currently out of work. That is why I'm able to do all these videos. So I'm hoping this takes off. So if y'all can help me get some subscribers, some more likes, some more videos, some more ideas, anything, that would be really helpful to get this channel started and lifted off the ground. But until then, I'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, and share. Deuces. This has been Stobo.